Good morning. The word for you today. Today is Thursday, December 26th, and our devotion is the fourth and final part of our series on lessons from the life of Joseph. Our scripture passage comes out of Matthew chapter 1, verse 24, and it says, "When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife." So this is at the end of this initial narrative when Joseph is really struggling with how to respond to the Mary situation. Joseph is a man who lives in a culture that is very much built on honor and shame. For a person to act in a way that dishonored the family or that dishonored another was of the highest insult. And so Joseph does something that is very atypical. When Joseph had found out Mary was pregnant, he had decided to not dishonor her, which is something that really never happened. That was something that was unheard of. I mean, if somebody did something that was shameful, you made sure people knew about it. So Joseph was already showing a completely different type of character than what was expected of him. And so Joseph has kind of purposed to do things right. Well, he still decided, I'm going to distance myself from Mary. I'm not going to deal with this. And then an angel of the Lord comes to Joseph and tells him about the prophecy, tells him what's really happening, who Mary is carrying, that being Jesus, and gives Joseph the commandment of marry, and she's going to have a son, and you're going to name him Jesus. So this goes through, and eventually, Joseph wakes up from the dream and he obeys. He does what the angel commanded him. He takes Mary as his wife, and then the next verse says that he cares for her and they have a son named Jesus. So this is a very odd story to me. And the reason is because it is so completely different from anything we would expect that it forces us to ask, what would we do? In reading this, I am forced to realize I don't know that I would react in the same way that Joseph did. I can't say I would be as gracious or as understanding or as obedient to God if I was in Joseph's situation. And that can be an uncomfortable feeling. So what's the lesson from this? I think the lesson from Joseph, I think that the lesson from this first chapter of Matthew is a really simple one, but a really difficult one. There are going to be times in our life when the plan we've had is completely derailed. This vision of what our life, what our family, what our circumstance is going to look like kind of gets thrown to the wayside. And that can be really terrifying. That can be devastating. And we just don't know what to do with that. And there are two ways that we can react. We can react with stubbornness or with hostility, saying this wasn't what I planned, and so trying to hold on to the plan. Or we can adapt and say, okay, this is the new situation, and I'm going to adapt to that. But then it goes a step further. And in our life, in those changed circumstances, there's going to be times when it feels like God is telling us to do something that we don't really understand. The way things are working out seems a little bit off. It's a little bit too far in the opposite direction. And it just feels odd. It's in those days that we have the choice of either trying to make it through on our own, or relying on the knowledge and the commands and the faith in God, and our faith in God. So this fourth lesson from the life of Joseph is one of obedience. Even when our circumstances have changed so drastically, what Joseph's life tells us is that there is still a way that God will use this, and there is still a way that God will incorporate us into that plan. We just have to be willing to obey what God tells us to do. Merry Christmas. Have a great day.